Welcome to the second part of the battle project breakdown, and there will be another one series with the last scenes. So let's start. This is the scene with battle standing around furniture and gathering. Very simple and very elegant dynamic setup thanks to Voronoi fracture. So you have spheres or any geometry creating Voronoi fracture. Then adding plane effector with -1 scaling, going to fall off, spherical. I put it at the top, going to spherical field, extend the size, decrease the size, and now we have to add additional movement. For example, I use push apart, and now we have to add additional movement, and I can use push apart effector with same spherical field. So if we disable plane effector, we'll see that our elements are far from each other and then gathering together. We have to add maybe delay effector to smooth the animation. Without delay, it would be very fast. Maybe more. Very smooth, very elegant. The great thing in this Voronoi fracture, so we can create selections for inner and outside faces and use them as selection for our materials. The whole scene look very simple. Materials are from grayscale, light dome from grayscale, and Redshift light. The one thing I want to show you is animation of this certain. This is a simple plane which looks like cloth simulation. We can add a displacer with noise, standard noise, and set y-axis to 0. And it's done. Low animation speed, you can even loop it, for example, for 3 seconds, and you'll have perfect loop. The second displacer has a bit more scale into y-axis to create this fold looking deformation. Of course, there is intersecting, and you can use, for example, smoothing and this deformation, and this deformator try to smooth the geometry, and this looks much better and almost no visible intersection. One major thing I use for this scene is Osho Filmic Blender. In the first series I show you the site where I downloaded, and LUTs are from Redshift data LUT Filmic LUTs file. You can use base contrast, and then it loads all these different things. Let me show you what it does. Saving, disabling lookup table, going to sRGB, and there is a slight difference into the light behavior. I would like to have a little vanish render, not so contrast. So this is the major thing for this scene. All these elements are from content browser. One of the first scene I've done, this is slicing of a battle. I have 2 Voronoi fracture selections and 2 effectors. One move one half of battle and control it. Maybe go into here, disable delay, and another. The background is done with just cubes, big cubes and 3 cubes, which are done by hand, and rotating of cloner with signal. So we have gathering our battle, then rotating this scene to the flat one. plastic material made out of platinum, because first I was start to make a metal looking scene, but then I decided to decrease IOR and add some color. Of course, we can add more diffuse to have more vivid color, and I prefer to have this dark one. And this is the 0.5 in, and there is the out. All my renders are done with the same render settings, just in TIFF, without any compositing. So everything I tried to put right into render. This was a challenge for me. The second part is scene that will be reversed. So we have parallel lines that are straight, and then they rotate to the left to match these cuts. Cuts are done with very simple technique by loading matrix into the Voronoi fracture. The angle of matrix will provide the cuts on the bottle. You'll see this is selection I use for my materials. Matrix, Voronoi fracture, and then selecting and move the selection to MoGraph tool. This scene is using new volume builder and moving elements. Let me show you how I create this one. So for example, I use cloner, delete this element. In time, I have moving up and rotation. Let me increase the speed. If we add random, we see that there is strange rotating, because random going after the time. Of course, we can play and set the proper rotation, but the easiest way is to add random and then time. In random, we can offset our elements, rotate a little bit in all directions, and they start to have this beautiful lifting and rotating. There are a few cloners, and if we see the top view, one on the left side, another on the right side, and they not intersecting, so we don't even use dynamics or some complex methods to fill the screen, just rearrange the cloner. In volume builder, we can use random field in mode called objects below, and it will create this type of organic look. Let me recreate this thing. We can torus, Shift C, random field, and volume builder, volume mesher. Like this, we can use parenting or linking of our object. I can create for this just simple structure. The torus, the random field called intersect, and instead of box, objects below. And we see that there is something going on with random field. Going to random mode, noise, and you can play with the scale. I decrease the voxel size just to have more dense structure. I'm using an A and B for switching the display mode. Going to field, 500, and we have these holes. Now we can go to remapping, to maybe curve. Going to curve, can create a contrast or any spline you want that create the effect you want to achieve. For example, I use this one, and if I play with multiplier, we can create a filling effect. So setting 0 at the start, 400 at the end, or even bigger one. And maybe play with this position. And we'll get this filling. Be sure to find proper values so you don't have any holes. Maybe like this. And 600 is okay. I would like to maybe direct the start point. So I create another object which will grow from the side. Too big one to cover our torus. 5, too much for 4. It's okay. Adding few more segments, going to volume builder. Now I rearrange this random field and union for sphere to intersect. We will see filling of our torus. It's like Boolean. Our value should be start with some high number, just not to have these empty frames. And now random field at the top and using object below and intersect, and we can match and we can mix revealing and this noisy pattern. Then you can rearrange the position and strength just to have end holes and growing effect. I use Marble preset. Just playing with ray trace sampling, doesn't change anything in scale. In glass I set a little bit of dispersion. It split color into the spectre. And one more trick is using a bokeh that create chromatic aberration effect or kind of dispersion. In lens we see light splitting because of dispersion, and if we on this bokeh, all our image start to have this chromatic aberration effect at the edges and the bright elements. Use unit intensity mode. These elements are from the pixellab.net freebies section. You have to subscribe, as I do remember, and you'll get access to the section and models you can use for your project. One more trick, spheres. This is the simple cloner with displacer that deforming with high volume, with high scale of noise. It's like soft body or fluid bubble. The last scene for this part, I can call it modern museum or something like this. Let me show you how I create this structure. For example, we use sphere, Werner fracture, matrix, maybe step by 50 and less elements, maybe 75. Werner fracture, drop it to sources, remove the basic one, and we see this type of cuts. But if we add random, we have another type of cuts. We can animate the strength, for example, even lower than 100. We get a dynamic structure of our geometry. Then we go into offset fragments and hit invert. As our bottle has a thickness, we didn't have this type of inner elements. Let me try to create with cloth surface. Yes, this type of effect is using in that scene. And there are two bottles. With different plastic materials and one material for background. This is done with simple green and bump one. So we can see some of bump here. And the second one, let me show you the first, just green. The second is 100 metal. I think I use silver preset or chrome, as you can use in other render engines. And I have this type of mask, which is done with maximum noise, just simple noise with high contrast and lower brightness. If we use default input for source, we'll get deformation on some of the object. So I go to the world, increase contrast, decrease brightness, and play with scale, just to have this kind of car paint structure, this type of flakes. Very simple and pretty good looking result. Thank you for watching the second part. In short time they will be able the finished part of breakdown battle project. Thank you for your attention.